I realized everything the moment I saw that lipstick stain. It was a Tuesday. Early afternoon. The kind of day that would have passed without note if not for that one detail, a small, dark red smudge right on the collar of Claire's cream-colored dress. Not even a dress she wore often, either. It was one of those expensive pieces I'd only seen her in maybe once before, back when we went to that fundraiser in Napa. She always said it made her feel a little too overdressed. But today she had it on like it was nothing. Hair done, earrings in, perfume that lingered in the hallway after she walked past. I was in the kitchen, home early from a shoot. The plan was to surprise her, maybe take her to lunch. She didn't hear me come in, so I caught her mid-rush, running from the laundry room to the bedroom with her phone in one hand and a pair of heels in the other. I called out, "Hey, Claire." She jumped like I'd pulled her out of a dream. And that's when I saw it. Just a second of stillness. Her eyes flicked toward her shoulder as if she already knew what I'd seen. I stepped closer. "You've got something on your collar." She looked down and let out a little laugh like it was no big deal. "Oh, that? Probably from a hug. I had coffee with Jan this morning. She wears the deep berry lipstick. I told her she always looks like she's about to do a photo shoot." I forced a smile. "Huh. Didn't know Jan was in town. She flew in last night for some charity thing. Super last minute." Her explanation was too fast, too polished. Like she'd picked it out ahead of time, waiting for just the right moment to use it. Then she tilted her head and smiled at me, that practiced, "I know you too well" smile. "You're not going to interrogate me over a makeup stain, are you? Since when did you turn into that guy?" I raised my hands. "Not interrogating. Just caught me off guard." Claire walked over and kissed me on the cheek, the gesture so casual it almost felt forced. "You're cute when you're suspicious." Then she changed the subject, asked what I wanted for dinner, if I'd called the landscaper, if Dylan had emailed us his dorm form. She moved through the conversation like nothing had happened, her voice smooth and light. But I couldn't unsee the stain. And I couldn't unhear the way she said Jan like it was her go-to cover. She left about 20 minutes later, claiming she had errands to run and a donor meeting across town. I told her I might stay in and edit some photos. She nodded, said, "Don't work too hard," and left. As soon as the door shut, I walked to the bedroom. Picked up the dress. The collar was soft. Silk. Too nice to wear on a Tuesday. And the lipstick, it was dark, matte, too rich a color for January. I knew that. Jan's more of a coral pink woman. Always has been. I held the fabric in my hand and stared at it like it was going to confess something. That was the moment something cracked open in me. Not a full break, not yet. But a shift. A small one. Like a picture frame tilting ever so slightly off the nail. The kind of thing you notice but can't explain to anyone else. The kind of thing that keeps you up at night because once you've seen it crooked, you can't unsee it. Up until then, I trusted Claire without hesitation. We weren't the check each other's phones kind of couple. We had our rhythms, our shorthand, our inside jokes that no one else understood. Our son Dylan had just started college, and for the first time in years, it was just us again, dinners on the patio, long conversations about books we never finished, late-night reruns of whatever show we were nostalgic for that month. We were good. Or at least, I thought we were. But that day, something was different. And when I tried to remind myself that it was probably nothing, I couldn't quite buy it. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But doubt has a funny way of planting itself. Even when you try to bury it, it keeps growing. Quiet. Patient. That night, Claire came home humming. Said the meeting went well, traffic had been a nightmare, and she might take a long bath before bed. She didn't ask about my day, not really. Just smiled as she walked past me and disappeared down the hall. I watched her go, wondering if I was being ridiculous. But then I remembered how she used to hate dark lipstick. Too much maintenance, she always said. Too easy to smear. I sat on the edge of the couch, TV remote in hand, and felt the air between us stretching, not in a loud, dramatic way, but like an old sweater slowly unraveling. I told myself I wasn't going to become a jealous husband. That I wouldn't start snooping or overthinking every little thing. But even as I made that promise, I knew it was already too late. Because once you see the first crack, you start looking for the rest. And whether you admit it or not, deep down, part of you already knows something's broken. After the lipstick incident, I tried to convince myself it was nothing. That I was overreacting. That Claire really did just hug a friend who wore an unusually bold shade that day. But you can only lie to yourself for so long before the truth starts leaking through the cracks. And the truth? It didn't come all at once. It came slowly. Subtly. Like a fog rolling in while you're still looking up at clear skies. A week after the lipstick stain, Claire mentioned casually while we were unloading groceries that she was thinking of going back to work. At first, I was thrilled. She'd been a stay-at-home mom for almost 10 years, pouring everything into raising Dylan. But now that he was off at college, I figured she needed something new. Some sense of purpose. Something that felt hers again. It made sense. It's a non-profit, she said, stirring pasta sauce that night while I poured us a glass of wine. They focus on food security and housing for at-risk families. That sounds like a great fit for you, I said, meaning it. You always lit up when you volunteered. She smiled, but there was something strange about the way she avoided my eyes. Like she was relieved I hadn't questioned her more. It wasn't the job itself that raised alarms. It was everything that came after. First, the clothes. Claire's style had always been effortless, oversized sweaters, denim, simple gold hoops. Comfortable. Familiar. But within a week, her wardrobe shifted. Suddenly she was buying fitted blouses, new lingerie, heels she'd once called totally impractical. She started wearing perfume again, a different one. Not the floral notes I used to bury my face in when I hugged her, but something muskier. Heavier. A scent I couldn't place. Don't you think it's a little much for a non-profit office? I joked once, only half joking. She laughed. They host donor events. I've got to look the part. Reasonable. Logical. And yet. Then came the phone habits. Claire had never been secretive about her phone. She'd leave it on the coffee table, screen up, forget it in the bathroom, ask me to check her messages while she was driving. That was the rhythm we had. No passwords. No secrets. But now? She took it with her everywhere. Into the bathroom. Into the laundry room. She even brought it to bed and slipped it under her pillow. I'd ask her something, and she'd jump, almost flinch, before quickly locking the screen and smiling too wide. Once, I caught a glimpse of a message preview when she was setting it face down. Thanks again for this morning. You always know how to, and then it vanished. I didn't ask about it. I should have. Instead, I sat with the quiet panic. That creeping feeling you get when you realize the ground under your feet might not be as solid as you thought. I tried telling myself that she was just adjusting to her new life, to her job, to being alone again after years of motherhood. But the excuses were starting to rot from the inside out. Dylan came home one weekend for a friend's birthday. He crashed on the couch and we ordered pizza like old times. I noticed that Claire was quieter than usual around him, distracted. She didn't ask him about his classes the way she used to, didn't tease him about his hair, didn't laugh as much. At one point, I stepped out to grab more drinks, and when I came back, I heard Dylan say, "You and Dad okay?" Claire responded with something I couldn't quite hear, but her tone was low, tired. Maybe it was my imagination, but when she looked up and saw me in the doorway, her face shifted too fast, the smile too sudden. Like she was putting a mask back on. That night, while Claire was in the shower, Dylan leaned against the kitchen counter and looked at me. She seems different. Yeah? I said, trying to sound neutral. Yeah, he said, frowning. You too. We didn't talk more about it. But I could tell even he felt the gap growing. The weirdest part was how good she got at covering it up. She still kissed me goodnight. Still made me coffee in the mornings. Still sat beside me on the couch and leaned her head on my shoulder. But it felt performative. Like she was checking off boxes. Going through motions she no longer believed in. There were moments I'd catch her staring off, not at anything in particular, just away. And when I asked what she was thinking, she'd say nothing, or just tired, or I've got to remember to email the team about the gala. Never anything real. And the more I noticed, the less I trusted my instincts. Was I being paranoid? Was I inventing drama where there wasn't any? I'd never been the jealous type. But now I found myself watching her, not in the way you admire someone you love, but the way you study something that's starting to slip away. She started working late. Said it was end-of-quarter donor meetings. Sometimes she wouldn't get home until 10 p.m. Once 11:15. She'd come in with tired eyes and a stiff hug, muttering something about traffic or last-minute edits. But she never looked like someone who'd been buried in spreadsheets. Her lipstick was still fresh. Her blouse neatly tucked in. Her phone buzzing every few minutes with names I didn't recognize. One night, I decided to call her office number. Just to hear her voice. Just to feel like I was still part of her day. A man answered. "Hey, this is Kevin," he said. Claire's not at her desk. "Want me to take a message?" I froze. Kevin. The name sounded familiar. I think she mentioned him once during a dinner recap. Something about him handling the tech side of donor analytics. I thanked him and hung up. That name would come back later in ways I couldn't imagine. But for now, I sat in my office, staring at the call log, trying to make sense of the feelings curling in my stomach. Not rage. Not even jealousy. Something worse, doubt. Doubt is insidious. It doesn't yell. It whispers. It sits with you in the quiet hours, in the moments between conversations, in the blank space where trust used to live. It twists your memories, makes you question the way she smiled last week or the reason she laughed a little too loud at her phone this morning. One morning, she left for work earlier than usual. Said she had to prep for a last-minute breakfast with a new donor. When I walked into the kitchen, her laptop was still open on the table. I stared at it for a long time. I'd never invaded her privacy. Never once felt the need to. But now my fingers hovered just above the trackpad, my pulse a slow drumbeat in my ears. I didn't open anything. Not yet. But I knew I would. Not because I wanted to, but because some part of me already knew what I'd find. And that's the cruel thing about suspicion. Once it starts, it doesn't stop. It spreads. It poisons everything. Every smile, every word, every silence becomes a clue. A possible lie. Claire came home that night with takeout and a bottle of wine, smiling like nothing had changed. But everything had. Because I no longer believed her. Not fully. And for the first time in our marriage, I was afraid of the truth. It happened on a Thursday night, sometime past midnight. Claire had fallen asleep on the couch with a blanket thrown over her legs, the TV humming low in the background. I had been upstairs editing a client gallery for hours, trying to keep my mind busy. But it didn't matter. No amount of distraction could stop the thoughts from circling back. The moments that didn't make sense. The two perfect explanations. The lipstick. When I came downstairs to shut off the lights, her purse had tipped off the arm of the couch, spilling out onto the floor. Her phone clattered onto the hardwood, screen side up. I reached down to grab it. That's when the message appeared. A simple, unfiltered truth, lit up in bold letters. Kevin, can't wait for Friday. Once he's gone, you'll be mine again. Everything stopped. The hum of the television, the rhythm of the house, all of it faded into nothing. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't plan to open it. I really didn't. But my thumb moved on its own. I tapped into the message thread, and with that, whatever innocence still existed between us shattered. The first thing I saw was a photo of Claire in the mirror wearing black lace lingerie I'd never seen before. Posed. Smiling. Lit just so. My stomach turned. Then the messages, dozens of them. Not just recent ones. No, this went back almost a year. They talked about everything. How much they missed each other. What they'd do the next time she could get away. Which hotels they liked. Jokes they'd made about me. Inside references. Nicknames. She called him K. He called her C. I read the same words she used to say to me, words about love, about escape, about dreaming of a different life now meant for someone else. There was even a picture of them together at a cabin in the woods. I recognized her sweater. I remembered her saying she was taking a solo weekend to unplug and recharge. Said she needed a break from everything, especially after Dylan left for college. Said it'd help her come back clear-headed. Clear-headed? I shut off the phone and set it gently on the coffee table. She stirred a little on the couch but didn't wake. I stood over her, not knowing what I was even feeling. Anger, sure. Sadness, absolutely. But also something deeper. Something hollow. Like the person I thought I'd been married to didn't actually exist. The worst part? I wasn't surprised. Not really. Deep down, I think I already knew. All the signs were there. I'd just been hoping, begging, to be wrong. I walked out of the room. Not because I needed air. Because I needed a witness. I grabbed my jacket, keys, and phone. Drove without thinking. Just aimed the car in the direction of a name that had stuck with me for weeks, Kevin's wife. Jenna. I remembered her vaguely. Met her once at a fundraising event maybe 2 years back. Red hair, sharp eyes. I remembered she did something with PR comms director, maybe, and that she'd helped organize a local art initiative Claire had volunteered with. Her name had come up in passing enough times for me to find a contact. A quick search pulled up her LinkedIn. From there, her work email. From there, a press release with a direct line. I hesitated. Then I called. It rang 5 times. I was just about to hang up when I heard a tired voice on the other end. Hello? Hi. I'm sorry it's late. This is probably the last thing you expected. My name's not important. But I think our lives might be connected. A long pause. Then, is this about Kevin? My throat dried up. Yeah, it is. She sighed. Where do you want to meet? We chose a neutral place, a 24-hour diner near City Hall. She was already there when I arrived, nursing a black coffee in a chipped white mug. She looked exhausted. No makeup, hair pulled back, sweater 2 sizes too big. When she saw me, she didn't even flinch. Just nodded toward the seat across from her. I had a feeling something was going on, she said as I slid into the booth. But I guess I didn't want it to be real. I pulled out Claire's phone and laid it on the table. I showed her the messages. She didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just nodded slowly like every word confirmed a suspicion that had been eating away at her for months. They were planning to move in together, she said after a while. Did you know that? My heart dropped. What? Kevin told me last month that if I wasn't happy, maybe we should separate. He said it so calmly like it was just logistics. I asked him if there was someone else. He said no. I sat back, staring at the sugar packets on the table. I thought maybe it was a midlife crisis. That he just needed space. But then I saw her name pop up on his phone a few times. See, with a heart emoji. He told me it was a coworker helping him plan a fundraiser. I let out a hollow laugh. They really love their fundraisers, huh? She smiled. It was the saddest smile I'd ever seen. That's when I said it. Out loud. The thing that had been forming in the back of my mind ever since I saw that first message. Claire's birthday is in 2 days, I said. She's throwing a party. Big one. Open terrace. Donors, friends, colleagues. I told her I couldn't make it. Jenna's eyes narrowed slightly. But you're going. I nodded. With you. She didn't say yes right away, but the look in her eyes said it all. They wanted to build a new life together. So I figured, let's help them start it. With the truth. Publicly. We met again the next evening, same booth, same diner. Jenna came in wearing jeans, a black coat, and that same haunted look in her eyes. Neither of us had slept much since the night before. I'd gone home around 3 a.m. and Claire was still on the couch, lights off, like nothing had changed. I'd stood over her for a second, wondering if I could ever look at her again without seeing Kevin's name lighting up her phone screen. I didn't wake her. I didn't say a word. She didn't ask where I'd been the next morning. We were two people sharing a house, orbiting each other like strangers. Now, sitting across from Jenna, I realized how similar we were. Different backgrounds, different lives, but both of us blindsided, both of us nursing the same invisible wound. We sat in silence for a while, sipping bitter coffee that neither of us finished. Eventually, I slid a manila folder across the table. Inside, *TS of messages, dates, photos, even hotel confirmations I'd pulled from Claire's email, which I discovered she'd stayed logged into on our shared tablet. I'd always trusted her. Enough to never log out. Enough to never look. What a joke. Jenna glanced through the contents, her face unreadable. You sure about the party? She asked. I am, I said. She's been planning it for months. Open terrace at that garden space on 12th, the one with the string lights and the skyline view. Figured they'd want a romantic setting for their reveal. I laughed under my breath. You're not wrong. She tapped the folder with her fingers. So what's the plan? I already RSVP'd no, I said. She thinks I have a shoot in Santa Barbara that day. But I went by the venue yesterday under the pretense of checking lighting for a client. I left a small projector under the DJ booth. All I need is 10 minutes and a laptop. Jenna raised an eyebrow. You've really thought this through. I nodded. I'm a photographer. I deal in exposures. She smiled at that, a genuine one this time, small but real. Then she asked, you want this to humiliate her? I paused. That wasn't the goal. Not really. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want drama for the sake of it. I just wanted truth. Out in the open. I wanted the masks off. I wanted to stop walking around in a life that had been twisted behind my back. I want her to know she can't rewrite the narrative, I said. They made choices. Now they get to live with them. Jenna nodded slowly. Okay, let's do it. The next 48 hours were a blur of logistics and emotional fog. Jenna sent out a press release about a last-minute campaign her firm was hosting, an excuse in case anyone saw her out that night and questioned it. I borrowed a friend's high-res projector under the guise of a video shoot. I tested the footage twice at home, syncing the photos, texts, and hotel bookings into a looped presentation, quiet and damning. It wasn't pornographic. It wasn't vulgar. Just facts. Dates. *TS. Enough that no one could argue what had happened. Claire, meanwhile, was in full party host mode. She floated through the house like she was gliding on champagne bubbles, calling vendors, trying on dresses, confirming RSVP numbers. She showed me a new bracelet she'd bought, said Kevin helped her pick it out. Kevin's got good taste, she said with a soft laugh. Very refined. I bit my cheek so hard I tasted blood. The morning of the party, she kissed my cheek as she left, her arms full of decorations and paper name cards. I'll miss you tonight, she said with that same smile she used on neighbors and donors. The one I now knew was fake. Yeah, I said. Have fun. When the door shut behind her, I stood in the foyer for a long time, the quiet pressing in. I texted Jenna, where'd go? 7:45, we walk in together. Her reply came back instantly, copy that. I'll bring the wine. That evening I dressed simply, dark slacks, white shirt, navy jacket. No tie. Jenna wore a black dress, elegant but subdued. We looked like guests. Normal. Unassuming. The venue was already buzzing when we arrived. The open terrace was lit with warm golden lights, soft jazz drifting from a speaker system. Waiters in white shirts moved through clusters of people with trays of sparkling wine. Claire stood in the center of the crowd, radiant in emerald green, laughing at something someone said. I saw it happen in real time. Her head turned. Her smile froze. She saw me. Then she saw Jenna. Then she saw us walking together. Her expression drained. The color left her face like someone had flipped a switch. Kevin wasn't there. The DJ looked over at me and gave a quick nod. I handed him the USB. A moment later, the screen lit up on the back wall. It started with the text messages. Slowly, methodically. One after another. Claire's voice in writing, calling Kevin, my reason, my escape. Then the calendar invite for a hotel stay in Carmel labeled work retreat. Then the mirror selfie. Then Kevin's reply, Friday can't come soon enough. I want to wake up next to you every day. Gasps filled the terrace. A woman dropped her drink. Someone whispered, oh my God. Claire stumbled forward, lips parting, hand reaching as if she could stop it somehow. She turned toward me. Mark, what are you doing? I didn't answer. Jenna stepped beside me, silent and composed. She didn't need to say anything. Her presence was the message. Claire started crying. Tears, real ones. Her voice cracked as she tried to speak. Please, this isn't what it looks like. Someone from her work turned away. Another excused herself. I saw two donors muttering under their breath and heading for the elevator. Her perfect night, her carefully curated evening of masks and charm, was crumbling. And Kevin? Nowhere to be found. Jenna and I turned and walked out side by side. We didn't speak as we made our way to the car. I heard Claire calling my name once, twice, but I didn't turn around. I had already seen enough. We didn't say a word in the elevator. Jenna stared straight ahead, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her face unreadable. I caught our reflection in the mirrored wall, two people who never planned to be there, pulled together by betrayal, grief, and a shared sense of purpose. Not revenge. Not really. Just the need to show the truth, to take it out of the dark where it had festered. When we reached the lobby, I held the door for her. Outside, the city buzzed like nothing had happened. Street lights glowed. Cars crawled past. It was just another Friday night. But up on that terrace, Claire's world had cracked open in front of everyone she tried so hard to impress. I turned to Jenna. You okay? She hesitated, then nodded. I didn't think it would feel like this. Like what? Quiet, she said. Like we broke something sacred. Even though they did that first. She wasn't wrong. There was no satisfaction. No thrill. Just a calm sort of finality, like closing a book you never wanted to finish. We stood there in the quiet for a few more moments, then she hugged me, brief, careful, but sincere. Thank you, she said. For what? For not letting me go through it alone. I watched her disappear into a rideshare car and drive off into the night. Then I got into mine and headed home. The house was dark when I walked in. Claire hadn't come back yet, or maybe she had and left again. Her heels were by the door, but her coat was gone. The silence inside was thick, the kind of silence you can't turn off with a television. I poured a drink, sat in the chair by the window, and stared at nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there, numb, listening to the sound of my life resetting. An hour passed. Maybe more. At some point, the front door opened. I didn't look up, but I heard her soft footsteps on the hardwood, tentative, almost apologetic. She stopped in the doorway. Mark? I didn't answer. I know I don't deserve to be here. I know I messed everything up. But I need you to know I never meant to hurt you like this. She was crying again. Her voice was broken, pleading. I'd heard the voice before, but never directed at me. I was lost. I didn't know who I was after Dylan left. I thought Kevin, he made me feel seen again. I know that's a horrible excuse, but I held up my hand. Not angrily. Just enough to stop the avalanche. Don't, I said quietly. Please. Don't try to make this about you finding yourself. But you had choices, I said, finally turning to face her. You made all of them without me. You built another life while pretending this one still mattered. She covered her mouth with both hands like she was trying to hold the sobs in. And now you want what? Forgiveness? A reset button? You got caught, Claire. That's what this is. She sank to the floor, knees folding beneath her, mascara streaking down her face. I didn't know how to stop it, she whispered. And when I wanted to, it was already too far gone. I know, I said. And I meant it. I did believe that. She wasn't a monster. She was just someone who didn't speak up when she should have. Someone who chased something shiny instead of facing what was real. But I also knew this, I couldn't save her from the consequences. The fallout came fast. Word spread among our circle like spilled wine across a tablecloth. Friends texted awkward half-apologies. Some reached out to me, saying they'd suspected something but didn't know how to bring it up. Others sent short, clipped messages, "I'm so sorry. I had no idea." But I think they did. I think at least a few of them looked the other way. Claire's best friend, Lila, unfollowed her on everything within 24 hours. The nonprofit issued a vague statement thanking Claire for her brief but valuable contribution and announced that Kevin had stepped down due to personal matters. Translation, they'd both been quietly shoved out the back door. Claire stayed mostly in the guest room after that. We didn't speak. We just moved through the house like ghosts of the people we used to be. Dylan called the next night. He'd heard something from a friend of a friend, someone who had been at the party, someone who'd seen the photos. I picked up, already bracing myself. "Dad?" he asked, his voice cautious. "Is it true?" I didn't lie. I didn't sugarcoat it. "Yeah," I said. "It's true." Silence. "Do you want me to come home?" he asked. "I can you?" "No," I cut in. "You stay focused. You've got enough on your plate. We're okay here." Another pause. "Do you need anything?" That one nearly broke me. My son, barely out of high school, offering to step in and be the grown-up in a moment that wasn't his to fix. "I just need you to keep being you," I said. "That's all I've ever needed." After we hung up, I stood there holding the phone, realizing just how much had changed. My marriage. My friendships. My sense of stability. But in all of that, Dylan's voice had been an anchor. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to hide. I wasn't going to fall apart in secret. Claire had already rewritten enough of our story behind closed doors. I'd face the ending head-on. The next morning, I drafted an email to my lawyer. It was short, direct, and final. Subject, divorce filing. Body, let's move forward. I'm ready. When Claire woke up that morning, I handed her the printed copy. She didn't fight it. She didn't beg. She just nodded, her eyes red but empty. "I figured," she whispered. We didn't talk after that. At least, not about anything that mattered. I began packing her things that afternoon. Not angrily, just methodically. Sweaters folded. Books boxed. Her favorite mug from the shelf. The scarf she always wore when she wanted to feel put together. All of it went into clean, labeled containers. I left them by the